Hey everyone, I'm Clue. Welcome back to the data pack, Runechant. So basically, we're just going over how to play, right? So all you have to do is follow the advancements. So last time we started in Runechant's beginnings, and we followed this one, boiling cauldron. So just boil water in a cauldron over a campfire, then led us to home brewing, and eventually to potion dispersal, right? But today we're going to follow a different branch. So we're going to come to grinding station. A grindstone can be placed on top of a lodestone to grind up certain ingredients, right? So it's another multi-block structure. We're going to need a grindstone and a lodestone, and having both in your inventory should trigger the advancements. Perfect. Then that will open up a few different things, right? So the one main path we want to follow first is infused paper. So grind some glow squid ink onto a piece of paper using the grinding station. So we want some paper and we want some glow squid ink. So you will want to set up a farm because these are very useful. But grinding station, lodestone, grindstone, right? So all it takes. Then piece of paper, glow squid ink, and there we go. We get ourselves infused paper, right? Now you can do stacks at a time. So if I throw them both on, they will slowly grind through until all the glow squid ink and all the paper is used up. We now have a full stack of infused paper. Following this branch of the advancements leads us to the Enchanter's Crucible, another multi-block structure and another important tool in the data pack. So starting off, we want to place a soul campfire surrounded in a cross of any wall. Pretty straightforward, soul campfire, and then any wall block, right? Anything works at all. So endstone, prismarine, take your pick. We'll stick with cobblestone, nice and simple. Campfire, wall, other wall, and the fourth wall, right? Then we can go to the next tier, which is layer 2. Place an amethyst block on top of the soul campfire, surrounded in a cross of any wall. Ooh, bit of typo there, right? In a cross of any walls. No, that's correct. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so don't forget, right? We're bug testing and looking for stuff to tweak and change, including wording. So we want an amethyst block, and then 4 more walls. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And finally, the third layer is place a holy cross of crying obsidian centered on top of the amethyst block. Now for the advancement to actually trigger, we will need 4 pieces. So I'll grab a whole stack, right? And we can go 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now this is our Enchanter's Crucible, right? Used for a lot of magical crafting. The main one we're looking at today is going to be this, the art of Runecrafting. So it says, use an anvil to imprint a word onto infused paper, then toss it into a crucible with the corresponding catalyst item. Now, it seems I have made a mistake and locked a very important advancement. Let me fix it up. Right, so that should be better. Now, if we look back at it, there we go, perfect. So we have this. Codex of Craftable Runes, rename infused paper with the keyword, throw it into Enchanter's Crucible with the corresponding catalyst item. So similar to that, right? But then this leads to how to actually use runes. But yeah, we have a bunch of different catalyst items. So the one we want to check out first is going to be this one, warp. So the catalyst item is an ender eye. So we will need an anvil, right? Which means we are also going to start spending some experience. I should also note the Enchanter's Crucible itself does cost experience to use. I will get around to adding in the tooltips. I have to look through all the functions, right, and figure out what the cost basis is, because there's a few different multi-block structures that do cost experience, right? So I'll just put a little tooltip at the bottom, uses or requires X level. But yeah, so we start off with an anvil. We want to name our infused paper warp, but I will just grab an extra stack, right? And then we wanted some ender eyes. Now we can go ahead and chuck both of them into the crucible to create our rune. They combine together, we get ourselves our first rune. Right, so we trigger the art of runecrafting as well as using runes normal and using runes glow. So, inscribed rune, warp. But how do we actually make use of it? Thanks to the advancements, we have 2 different ways. So first off, to utilize runes, simply place them into an item frame, then when touched, they will activate. When placed in a glow item frame, runes become player specific, only activating when a player touches them, versus normal item frames, which are when placed in a normal item frame, runes will activate when any entity touches them. So you can create that distinction, right? If you only want players to trigger the runes or the traps, right? Because a lot of these are sort of trap based, but there are some utility ones like warp, which we'll go through in a second, right? So you can set up to specifically target players or target any entity that interacts with it. But nice and simple, we just want some item frames. So again, you want some glow squid ink or just leather. So hopefully that ups the whole crafting and farms needed. But we have a normal item frame, we have a glow item frame. Now, this is a special rune to start off, right? And that is, it doesn't work by itself, right? We walk on it, nothing happens. We walk on it, nothing happens. But if we set up another one of the same corresponding frame, so for instance, glow, glow, or normal, normal, and chuck in the rune, what we can do now is warp, right? Just as its namesake, you can warp to the other rune, and obviously it clears the rune you used, but not the one you land on, right? You can set up multiple teleports, and it will always go to the nearest first. So we'll go here, and then if we step off, step off, step back on, we'll go back to this one. And just like I said, any entity works with a normal item frame, meaning that we can chuck, say, an ender eye, and ta-da, you now have a way of transporting items at the cost of experience, paper, glow squid ink, right? And the fact that in its current iteration, it only affects one entity. But there is a way to improve upon the runes. We need another item. So I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to just give myself the loot, right? So if I go give us loot, Runechant, and then we're looking for another fragment similar to the potion making, right? This time we want enchantment. This would normally trigger off of enchanting items. You get a random chance to get some of these shards, but now we have our world fragment enchantment, and that unlocks another section in our world page. We have fragments of knowledge found by enchanting items, and this leads to a few different ones, but the one we want to zero in on is this greater runecrafting. So we can add a world fragment enchantment to an inscribed rune in Enchanter's Crucible to increase its potency. So we can take our normal rune of war, and we can go ahead and buff it with our enchantment fragment. Now, we drop that, and we drop one of these in. Doesn't work, right? So this is a heavy cost. It's only 1-to-1, so we'll have to farm up and enchant a bunch of things to actually get these fragments, but we can get ourselves a greater rune warp. And the distinction for this one is the amount of entities it targets at once. So for instance, if we go ahead and place them both in the normal item frames, what we can do is we can drop a bunch of items or different entities around the item frame and then trigger it, and it will teleport everything. Similar to that, we ourselves can now be used to teleport different entities along with us. For instance, you might want to transport mobs. So if we go ahead and spawn in a sheep, right, just near us, we can go ahead, teleport. Oh, I need to set up the other one, right? And the sheep will come with us. Now, again, when it's in a glow item frame, see that? The sheep does not trigger it, but in a other item frame, in a normal item frame, sheep will teleport. So you can now improve it into a greater rune and target every entity within a set radius around the item frame, allowing you to transport a lot more things. And again, you have that dynamic of being any entity or player specific. And of course, when we're talking about runes, there is a bunch, right? There are 24 different runes for you to check out and play with. I just wanted to make sure warp works because it is one of the more complicated ones, but we have stuff like conjure, defend, doom, exhaust. Again, a lot of them are sort of trap basis, but there are some utility ones here and there. I think one that is actually potentially missing, is it? No, here we go. Another stuff, siphon. This will allow us to bottle experience, and then stuff like spring, right, which is another fun one. This will allow us to essentially spring. So for instance, we name it spring, and we need some rabbit feet. So we'll go ahead and just use our creative inventory. If I could find E on my keyboard, rabbits. Which one's which? That one's spring. We can go ahead and craft the runes. Again, 1-to-1. You should be able to, I can't remember if I did set this up. No, so it is 1-to-1. So you have to use a dispenser to drop them one by one if you want to sort of automate the crafting process. But you will have to be nearby for the experience. That's the other thing. But we can get ourselves some spring runes. And what do these do? Well, again, dynamic, player specific. Ta-da, they essentially launch you, right? So you can use them to chain together. You go from one to the next. You time it right. But of course, you can use them on mobs or different entities that touch the trap, right? Because it does do a decent chunk of full damage, right? How many to... Oh. Okay, I can't quite get it. There we go. But we got affected too. There you go, 2 hits. But wait, there's more, right? So we have a few different advancements we can also look at that are tied to this system. We have down here, blank rune. Grind some normal squid ink onto a rune using the grinding station, and then that leads to fixed in place. Iron nuggets can be turned into makeshift nails by tossing them, onto a block of ancient debris. They can then be dropped on an item frame to fix it in place, versus what the eyes can't see. Use the grinding station to turn phantom membrane into paste, then drop it onto an item frame to turn it invisible. So We needed Phantom Membrane. I'm also running out of inventory spots. Let's ditch a few items that we don't need. We also wanted some iron nuggets, some ancient debris, and what was the last one? Squid ink. Done. So, nice and simple. Iron nails, like it says. Ta-da! And then we have the Phantom Membrane paste. Ta-da! Right, gets rid of all the creases, makes it nice and smooth like paste. And of course, we can get rid of the name on the item by chucking on a ink sac. Now, it doesn't completely remove it because I don't want it to be non-visible, right? So obviously, a player walking up to these runes goes, well, that's a greater rune. Let me look at it. Well, it's a WA, so that's a warping rune, so that's fine. But if it's trap, right, you can identify them. They do all have unique sprites so that you can sort of memorize them and know what's good and what's bad. But with the use of our ink sac, it's now slightly less visible, right? We can, of course, take it a step further. We can chuck some Phantom Membrane paste onto it. Now, as you can see, the item frame is invisible. And finally, we can fix it in place so the player can't actually actively destroy it, right? Of course, I'm creative, so it doesn't work. But a player wouldn't be able to just knock it away. They'd have to make sure to navigate around it. Or, as the advancements then lead to, fixture remove list. Remove the fixtures from an item frame by throwing shears onto it. Or remove the invisibility from an item frame by throwing a brush onto it, right? So those are the basics of runecrafting. Well, actually, that's pretty much the entirety of runecrafting, aside from actually showing off what the runes are. But yeah, there's 24 to play around with. Again, there's the dynamic of item frames, glow item frames, and also then the greater runes and normal runes. The actual effect of the greater runes you have to figure out, right? Because as you can see, spring does already affect everything around it, but warping does not. Warping is one-dimensional unless you improve it and make it a greater rune, in which case it targets everything around it. But in the case of spring, well, that one's probably, simple to figure out. You just go higher, right? Or maybe you get some full resistance. I can't actually remember. I think it's just higher. But yeah, lot to figure out. Hopefully that helps guide you along. Again, I'm trying to make this as simple as just following the advancements. And I don't want to overcomplicate it too much, so I do have to sort of hide some stuff and change the triggers for them, but we're getting there. And after every one of these videos, I will push another update for the pack, right, to go along with the changes. And I will also, fix other stuff we found. For instance, the typo, right? What was it? Iron nuggets into a makeshift nail by tossing. Yeah, so stuff like that I will hopefully get to. Because again, balancing, tweaking, and finding bad English, basically, is all part of this phase of the pack. Nonetheless, hope you enjoyed. Again, the next video out will be the functional side of the rune system, right? We probably won't go over to crafting because crafting is the same as the potions, but we'll go over the actual effects, right? Player detection versus mob detection, and then all the different effects, because that's nice and easy. They're all in the one function for us to sort of peruse through. But anyway, hope you enjoyed. See ya.